So apparently I forgot we have a podcast.
I knew you had a lot on your plate though, so I didn't want to.
It's crazy though. Like, it's been so quiet and I've been failing at life.
Oh, really?
It's like I work better with chaos. But I've had all this free time.
So it's
I'm
kind of
doing
like
nothing at all.
overwhelmed you.
I could be doing all these things and I'm just like, nah.
Yeah, I think coming into winter,
I don't function well in the cold. My brain
Yeah.
just stops working. And it only like runs on fumes at the best of times.
You're looking amazing, by the way.
Thanks. I'm bloody working hard for it.
You're doing very well. You look great.
Thanks.
But welcome back, guys, I guess.
Yeah.
We have missed you.
Did you miss us?
I've missed us.
I love when you message before and you're like, we're a mess. I love us. It's just like, you know what? That's so valid.
We have set the mood.
Yes.
We're ready to rock.
It feels warm in here just because it's cozy.
It's because
Like,
it's
'cause
the
of
lights are dim.
Candlelight.
My fake TMU candles.
Fire safety.
It is. Well, yeah, I could leave it on and just
That's
run the
it.
battery dry.
Exactly. You'll be fine. I've been trying to like segue. I'm like, how do I segue into this one? But I guess it's no surprise that I'm doing a case and it's an Adelaide one.
Welcome back, Jade.
Because I don't know why I always just gravitate to local cases. And there's so many cases out there in the world. And I'm like, I might do an Adelaide one.
I understand the, not fascination, I understand why though, because we obviously live here. You don't imagine these types of, like the Bertha shipping case. I don't imagine that happening literally a couple of suburbs away from me.
Right.
I mean, obviously many years ago.
Yeah. But I guess maybe that's what it is. It's that reality, that like facing it because it's local.
It sounds like something that would happen in a movie.
Yeah.
And then knowing that it's happened literally on your doorstep,
I think
makes it more fascinating.
Like you go past places. Like I remember when I used to go catch a bus into the city when I worked in the city, and I was reading a book about Von Einem.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that he grabbed from a bus stop on Melbourne Street in the city or Connell Street in the city. And I was on a bus going down Connell Street in the city. And you're like, oh, wow, it was one of these bus stops.
I think every time I'm going to look at the River Torrens, I'm not going to be able to, anytime I see a bag floating, I'm going to be like, oh my God, it's a corpse.
You're like, there's bodies in there.
I kind of already do that. Whenever I see a plastic bag on the side of the road, I'm always imagining, I wonder if that's a body in there.
There's on the way to work at the moment, there's someone's rolled up a carpet and dumped it on the side of the road.
And immediately you think there's someone in there.
Every time I drive past it, I'm like, should I stop and check it? Because everyone's just driving past it and no one knows.
Yeah.
Like, there could be a body in there.
Because that's happened before on like dirt roads in certain cases. Yeah.
Yep. And then I was telling one of my clients about it and she's like, do you really want to find it though? And I was like, I don't necessarily want to
know me?
find it, but I don't want to not be the person who finds it.
Yeah.
I don't want someone else to find it. And I'm like, God damn it, I could have done that.
Yeah.
That being someone else. I mean, I'm sure it's going to traumatize me, but how many people can say they've found two bodies in their life?
How much more traumatized can you really get?
Right? Like,
surely you're at your limit.
Any more trauma I get now, it's just going to drip over the sides. It's fine.
I do love us.
And everybody laugh at Jade's trauma.
Jade's of our lives. So this week I found a body in a rolled up piece of carpet.
Could you imagine? People are going to listen to this and be like, what the fuck?
They'll be like, surely this shit is made up.
I know. Well,
oh my God.
Jesus.
Sorry, so what are you doing today?
So today I'm doing the Truro Murders. And I struggled so hard to take information out of this case because it could have just been so long.
Yeah,
like
two-parter.
Yeah, easy. Go to part 2. It could have been a very, very long one. But surprisingly, it's another case that starts in December.
Oh, wow.
There's
good
something.
Old Christmas murder.
Right?
I don't know why I sang that.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
When I'm doing Christmas carols. Sorry.
Shit, that's gold. Okay, so from the first victim being taken on the 23rd of December 1976 to the last one being taken on the 12th of February 1977, Christopher Robin Worrell and his supposedly unwilling accomplice James William Miller would leave a shocking 7 victims behind in a 51-day killing spree that would tarnish the name of a small country town for decades, despite none of the murders ever happening in the town. It was also known as, that you quite often hear it referred to as the Truro hitchhiking murderers. Truro hitchhiking murders. One of the victims was hitchhiking.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And then they referenced the whole thing.
Yeah, and it just became
a
hitchhiking thing. And I think they jumped on that because of his name, Malat. Ivan Malat.
That's immediately what I thought of when you said that anyway, so I can easily understand why.
Yeah, because I can remember this being on the news and stuff when I was younger, and I remember them always referring it to the hitchhiking murderers. Oh. Yeah, that wasn't a thing. So
except one.
Yeah, except for one. So in the early 70s, a chance meeting of 2 convicted criminals would start what would inevitably become one of Australia's most dangerous, deadly partnerships. Miller was serving time for a break and enter, and a then 19-year-old Christopher Worrell was awaiting sentencing for rape, and for breaching a 2-year suspended sentence he was already serving for armed robbery. He would be sentenced to 6 years for these crimes. The unlikely duo met and became fast friends, and they would eventually request to share a cell. This friendship would eventually manifest into something of a more sexual nature. 4 months after meeting, Miller would be released from prison, but would quickly go on to reoffend, stealing 4,000 pairs of sunglasses.
Oh my God.
And he would be returned to Yatala prison to serve a further 16 months, and he would be reunited with his love, Christopher Worrell. James Miller had quickly become infatuated with his younger, handsome cellmate, and this would ultimately be his complete undoing. The men solidified their bond by becoming blood brothers. Jizz wasn't enough. They had to be blood brothers as well. Both slitting their wrists and rubbing their blood together.
Oh my, what the hell?
35-year-old Miller had never had this kind of acceptance and friendship. Upon release from prison, James Miller would move in with his sister, remaining loyal to his incarcerated lover, awaiting Worrell's release. As a convicted criminal, James Miller couldn't visit the prison for a year after release, so he would disguise himself as a woman so he could go to the prison and visit Worrell. I feel like it could happen more these days, like a man coming in as a woman and them turning a blind eye to it. But James Miller wasn't a very feminine-looking person, so I don't know if he was
got away with
posing as a woman. Yeah. So 17 months into his sentence for the rape, Christopher Worrell applied for parole. His parents declined to have him return home for fear of the impact he would have on his younger brother, so his application for parole was denied. However, 6 months later, after being an ideal prisoner, Christopher Worrell would be released and the duo would be reunited. Christopher Worrell was a predator in every sense of the word. He would use Miller's love as a weapon against him, and the two began what could only be described as a dom-sub styled relationship, James bowing and submitting to Christopher's every whim, and cowering in his explosive fits of rage. The duo's sexual relationship continued, with an infatuated Miller continuing to perform sexual acts on Worrell, while Worrell would read predominantly BDSM porn magazines. So he'd be reading the magazines while he was blowing him so he could pretend it wasn't a dude or something. But do you know how hard it is to say Worrell twice in a sentence?
It's like me trying to say Truro.
So the two men would move on from Miller's sister's home and they would get a small unit together. They also both got jobs for the council and would work on building Adelaide roads.
How many criminals have built our roads?
It's crazy. The two were truly inseparable. As time went on, Worrell would call an end to the sexual side of the relationship as he could no longer deny that his preference was definitely for women. His charisma and good looks made it quite easy for Christopher to pick women up, which he would do often, and after work the men would head to the pub or a mall and Worrell would find a girl eager for a night's attention, and the ever-obedient Miller would drive the trio home where he would go to his room and Worrell would fulfill his desires with his girl of that night. Worrell's desires would grow and he would need more and more women men to satisfy his urges. So eventually the nights at home with these women would shift into picking them up, making Miller drive them to somewhere secluded where he would park the car and go off for a walk, leaving Chris and his lover alone. After around 30 minutes, he would return to the car, drop the girls back where they picked them up from, and head off looking for another willing participant. This could happen 3 to 4 times a night.
Oh, Jesus.
So Worrell got that dirty dick. Worrell's needs would continue to escalate, and eventually he would pick girls up and convince them to allow him to tie them up as it turned him on. "It's my kink," he would tell the girls. Surprisingly, they would usually agree to be tied up. Miller would drive, get out and leave the couples alone, return and then drop the girls home almost routinely. He would do anything to keep his love happy, even if it tore him apart inside.
Yeah, what the hell? Why don't you just... Sure.
I love you that much that I'll help you go pick up random girls and fuck them in my car. That's fine.
I'll clean it up as well while I'm at it.
And I'll drop the girls home safely. Okay, puppy dog. Miller had suffered depression his whole life. He'd been broke and broken, and he had been homeless and alone. And now he had a home, a job, a good friend, and a love. And even if he hated what was happening, his life was somehow better than it had ever been. And he was determined not to upset that, no matter the cost.
Nailed it.
So this leads us to December 23rd, 1976. Miller had dropped Worrell off in Rundle Mall. He was on the prowl and knew that this close to Christmas, the shopping district would be full of potential lovers. Miller would do laps of the block from King William Street to Grenfell, onto Pulteney, onto North Terrace, and then back onto King William. He would continue to drive this block until he could see Christopher and his date waiting for him. Could you imagine being in love with someone and just doing laps of that block in the city?
While they found someone to go off and have sex with.
Yep. Yeah. And then you just keep driving it until you find him sitting there and, oh, he found someone, I'll pick him up now.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. So on this day, Worrell was waiting with an 18-year-old Veronica Knight who had been separated from her friends while shopping and accepted Worrell's offer for a ride home. Worrell was good looking and charismatic, so he couldn't be dangerous, right? Once in the car, the men managed to convince Veronica to come for a drive with them to the Adelaide foothills. Miller parked and went for his usual walk. However, this time when he returned to the car, he didn't find an embarrassed young girl who had just realised she was just used for a one-night stand. What he found was a lifeless body. Veronica Knight was dead. According to Miller, he flew into a panicked rage, grabbing Worrell by his shirt and screaming at him for what he had done. Miller goes on to say that Christopher responded to his reaction by pulling a knife on his friend and threatening to kill him if he didn't help him dispose of her body. So Miller complied, and the two men drove to Swamp Road, Truro, and dumped Veronica's body into a shallow grave, covering her in trees, leaves, and sticks. The men drove home in silence, as Miller stated that Christopher was in one of his black moods, Miller's term for Worrell's intense bouts of rage. The two men went home, went into their own rooms, and attended work the next morning as if nothing had happened. The next 10 days would see people celebrating Christmas, New Year's Day, school holidays, beach days, general summer fun. No one enjoying this time more than Adelaide teens. Warm weather, movies, some independence and freedom, no school, time for friends and fun. Sadly, this was not the case for 15-year-old Tanya Kenny. On January 2nd, 1977, after hitchhiking from her home in Victor Harbour, Tanya arrived in the city of Adelaide, where she was soon picked up by Miller and Worrell. Worrell told Tanya that they had to quickly drop into Miller's sister's home so he could grab some clothes. Miller drove them to the home where he stayed in the car. Worrell and Tanya would go into the home alone. A little while later, Worrell returned to the car and asked Miller for help. Miller followed Worrell into the toy room of his sister's home, where he was met with the sight of Tanya's dead body. Infuriated that this had happened again, James Miller yelled at Christopher Worrell and would again be threatened if he didn't help Christopher dispose of the body. Miller knew his sister and her family were away on holiday, so he knew they had time. The men put Tanya's body into the closet and would return later that night, where the cloak of darkness would give the men their privacy they needed to take the body to the car. The men then drove to Wingfield, where they disposed of the teenager's body. Again, they drove home in silence, went to bed, and continued life as normal the following day.
Is it a brutal killing? Like, is he
strangling?
Just strangling? Okay.
Yeah,
That's still, I mean,
yeah,
messed up,
it's
but
still terrible. But
at least it's not a bloody sight that he's
yeah,
sort of walking into. I'm not
that's it.
I'm not giving him sympathy, but at least it's not something violently bloody.
That's it. And they didn't have to try and like clean blood from the children's toy room, or
yeah,
like,
that's
it's still demented
that.
to strangle someone. It's even demented to go and like try and have sex with a stranger in your best mate's sister's kid's playroom.
Yeah, that is
like
still messed up.
Let alone strangling her. Fucking hell. So now we're at January 21st, 1997. 16-year-old Juliet Makita was waiting at her bus stop after work. Juliet was a very responsible and very driven teenager. After the men convinced her to come for a drive, she called home to let her parents know she was going to be a little late as she was getting a ride with some friends. Sadly, Juliet would never make it home. The trio headed out to Port Wakefield. This time, Worrell couldn't even wait for Miller to leave the car before tying up the 16-year-old Juliet. Miller knew it was Worrell's kink, so he didn't think too much of it, and by this point, he knew better than to speak on it, but stopped suddenly as he heard a commotion coming from behind him. He turned to see Juliet falling out of the car and fighting Worrell. The 22-year-old then climbed on top of the 16-year-old and began strangling her. Miller claims that he attempted to get Worrell to stop, but he was no match to his strength. As Juliet died, Worrell hurled threats at Miller, so he backed off. The two headed back to Truro and disposed of the teenager's body.
And they're not doing a good job of disposing them, are they? Like,
no,
they're just dumping them and covering them
just
with
chucking
leaves.
branches and stuff over them. Like, they're not digging big deep holes or anything like that. Like, they're just chucking shit over the top of them.
I suppose in a weird way, that's a good thing that then they could be found easy.
Yeah.
And then
identified. They're not
and
disappeared forever.
Yeah.
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 So, February 6th, 1977. Olivia Pittman waited at Adelaide train station where she encountered the charming Christopher Worrell, who convinced her to let him and his dad drop her home. Christopher would quite often refer to Miller as his dad or his uncle, as it gave the girls a sense of safety. The 16-year-old would accompany the men to Wingfield, where Miller would disappear on one of his walks and return to find a lifeless body in the back of his Valiant station wagon. He would again begin the drive to Truro, where they would dump the body of the unsuspecting teenage girl, covering her with branches and leaves and leaving the scene quietly. Merely one day later, on February the 7th, 1977, Christopher Worrell would head out on his own, leaving a message for Miller to pick him up from the post office at a specific time. Miller complied, and when he arrived, he would be met by both Christopher and 26-year-old Vicky Howe. Vicky wasn't Worrell's usual victim, and Miller had hopes that this time it would be different. Miller and Vicky chatted while driving to a more secluded place, and Miller grew quickly fond of her. He really, really liked her. When they arrived at the secluded spot, Miller went off on his walk, returning about half an hour later, where he found Worrell and Vicky in the backseat chatting. So he headed back out on a longer walk, feeling confident that Vicky would be okay. Christopher must like her as much as he does, he thought as he walked. After a while, he returned with good hopes, but found Vicky dead in the car. Miller claims he flew into a rage. He liked Vicky and had believed she was safe. He didn't care if Christopher killed him. He was done with his behaviour, and this one really hurt him. He abused and cursed at Worrell, who didn't say a word in reply. No anger, no threats, but Miller knew the routine. He got into the car, drove to Truro, and they disposed of Vicky Howe's body in the usual fashion, shallow grave under branches and leaves. 2 days later, February 9th, 1977, 16-year-old Connie Iordanides, she also went by Connie Jordan, so I'm going to use Jordan because it's easier to say, would fall victim to Worrell's looks, charms, and promise of a lift home. She was picked up in the city and got into the car with the men. Connie would realise that the men were not heading in the direction of her home, and in fact in the opposite direction, and she became frightened and started screaming for help. Miller stopped the car in Wingfield, and Worrell forced a screaming and frightened Connie from the front seat into the back seat of the car. Miller sat at the wheel and did nothing while this happened. He then got out, went for his walk, and returned a short while later. Upon his return, the two men didn't speak. Miller just drove to Truro. February the 12th, 1977. 20-year-old Deborah Lamb was hitchhiking on West Terrace, Adelaide, when the blue and white Valiant sedan wagon pulled alongside her. Seeing the sweet-faced Worrell in the car, she jumped in, accepting the ride with the men. Miller drove the Truro to Port Gawler, where he exited the car and went for a walk Upon his return, he found Christopher Worrell alone, kicking sand into a hole with his foot. The men drove home and Deborah Lamb's body would be found buried on that beach. February 19th, 1977. The last two victims of the duo would lose their lives. Deborah Skuse was the ex-girlfriend of a friend of Miller and Worrell's. After her breakup with the friend, the two men took her with them to Mount Gambier for the weekend. It was the weekend of Christopher Worrell's 23rd birthday. The trio spent the weekend drinking and partying until Christopher switched from party mode into one of his black modes. Miller noticed this and the way Worrell was looking at their friend. He knew this all too well and confronted Christopher on the dangers. He feared Christopher had plans on killing Deborah, and he knew that killing someone that they both knew was a surefire way to get caught. Worrell wouldn't shake his mood, and despite his impaired condition, he agreed with Miller and decided they would all go back to Adelaide. The party was over. Only this time he wouldn't allow Miller to drive. He was going to drive. Miller knew better than to argue with Christopher when he was in one of his black moods, and like a good little sub, he jumped into the middle back seat of the car while oh, fuck's sake.
It's the R's.
While Worrell, who was 8 to 10 beers deep, drove and Deborah took the passenger seat. Worrell was driving recklessly through the countryside and a terrified Debbie begged for him to slow down. The pair began arguing, with Worrell screaming at her to shut the fuck up before yelling, "We have a blowout." The Valiant was out of control. It pulled onto the other side of the road into oncoming traffic. Worrell steered the car out of the road where it slid and rolled numerous times.
Holy shit.
Yep. All three occupants were ejected from the car and found on the grass at the accident site. Many people witnessed the accident and ran to offer assistance at the scene. Deborah Skuse and Christopher Robin Worrell were both killed in the accident and were dead where they laid. The final victims of Christopher Robin Worrell were Deborah Skuse and himself. James Miller received a broken shoulder and was taken to hospital to be treated for shock. His best friend in the entire world, someone he loved clearly more than life itself, was gone, and he was alone again. At Worrell's funeral, a distraught Miller stood by his graveside with Christopher Worrell's girlfriend Amelia. Yep, he had a girlfriend.
The whole time?
This whole time. Not the whole time. They were recent. I mean, the spree only went for 51 days. Like, even having a girlfriend didn't calm you down. Like, the fuck? Miller informed Amelia that Christopher's autopsy had found a blood clot on his brain. He went on to explain that that's why he acted like he did and did what he did. Confused, Amelia looked at him. Did what he did. What do you mean? Blood clots on the brain make people act different and do horrendous things. By his graveside, James Miller confessed to Amelia about all of the killings. It was getting worse lately. It was happening more often. It was perhaps a good thing that Chris died. On the 1-year anniversary of Christopher's death, James Miller would post an in memoriam in the Adelaide Advertiser reading, "Worrell, Christopher Robin, memories of a very close friend who died 12 months ago this week. Your friendship, thoughtfulness and kindness, Chris, will always be remembered by me, mate. What comes after death, I can hope and pray that we meet again." Although they had only been together for a short time, Amelia was quite fond of Christopher, and she kept Miller's secret somewhat to protect Worrell's reputation, but somewhat because she didn't believe the story. That was until on the 20th of April, 1978, Bill Thomas, and now some things I found said he was out with his partner, some things I found said he was out with his brother. So I'm not sure who he was with on the day. But Bill Thomas and someone else were out mushroom picking in the bushland off of Swamp Road. So Bill and whoever he was out with that day were out mushroom picking in the bushland off of Swamp Road when he noticed a cow bone sticking out of the ground. Some sickos had put a shoe on the bone, probably to be funny. When he got home, Bill told his wife of his find, and neither of them could shake the feeling that it was something more sinister. So on Anzac Day, the pair travelled back out to the spot just outside of the town of Truro to have a better look. Upon closer inspection, they realised it was not a cow bone, but was in fact a human leg bone with a shoe attached, and in the shoe was a foot, complete with painted toenails. They also found blood-stained clothing and more bones nearby. These bones would be identified as that of 18-year-old Veronica Knight, who had seemingly vanished into thin air 18 months earlier. Initial investigations led to the theory that she may have visited the area on a walk and got lost and died due to lack of water. Her death was not considered suspicious in any way. That was until almost a year later to the day when on April 15th, 1979, the skeletal remains of 16-year-old Sylvia Pittman were found less than 2 kilometres from where Veronica's remains were located. Sylvia was around the same age, had disappeared around the same time, and from the same area. It was plain to see there was a huge possibility of a link between these two cases. My brain just short-circuited.
See?
There's just a random full stop there. And I was like, that's not a complete sentence. Why is there a full stop there? But I must have hit the space button twice.
Oh,
so I was like, no, I'm not committing to that being the end of the sentence. Upon further investigation, police would realise a further 5 women disappeared in the same circumstances, and they began the difficult task of piecing together all of the evidence that they currently had. At this point, they were already pretty certain they were looking for a serial killer. A massive search party was organised, and within 11 days, they had found the remains of 2 more of the 5 remaining missing girls, Connie Jordan and Vicky Howe. News of the girls being found spread far and wide, and upon hearing it, Amelia contacted the police with the story that James Miller had shared with her 2 years ago. Shortly after, Miller would be apprehended, and it wouldn't take long for him to open up and tell the police everything. He even gave the police the locations of the remaining women's bodies. I was just thinking, everything I read on this and everything, like all the research and stuff I did, they're always referred to as the women. They found the women's body. They found it. They were girls. They were 15, 16. One of them was 26. One of them was 18, but the rest of them were 15 and 16. They're girls.
Even 18, say a woman.
Right? And like, as I was reading this, I've just had that realization that, like, I don't know, just changing the language like that, they weren't women. They were young girls, 15-year-olds that supposedly consented to having sex with a 22-year-old. Okay, yeah, that can happen.
And in those times, maybe like it was a bit...
Yeah, it obviously would have been different then, but like in the world today,
so I'm just bringing up a picture of him. I don't know what he looks like now.
He's definitely decent looking.
What? Who's the bald guy?
So the bald guy is James Miller.
Really?
And the other guy is Christopher Worrell.
That is a total... That bald guy looks like he's a 50-year-old man.
Yeah, so he was 38.
Oh my God. Yeah, Miller does not look like a murderer.
Nah. And if you look at like the pictures of Worrell,
he just does not... Oh, that is so sad.
This is one of those cases where I don't necessarily agree with the penalty. Yeah. Because I think that although he was a full-grown man and could make his own decisions, I think that James Miller was also a victim of Christopher Worrell. He was in love and he was infatuated and he was obviously had mental health issues and everything else. And in this day and age, I don't think he ever would have got the sentence that he got. Obviously, 70s,
just with more evidence, they would have looked at that a lot differently.
Because I feel like he's not, by no means is he innocent. Maybe for the first one, but you don't go out the second, third, fourth,
You
fifth.
don't continue driving him knowing what the outcome's going to be.
That's it. There comes a point where you've got responsibility over that, and he went way and beyond that. But he would have also somewhat been like in a domestic violence relationship. Like if he stood up and said something, he got abused. He was in love with him. So as far as he was concerned, they were in a relationship. In 2025, this would have ended differently.
Yeah,
I think.
Definitely.
I'm not can't even think of the word. Like I'm not saying he's innocent and I'm not undermining what he did. Like he absolutely was a part of this.
Mm-hmm.
But
it would have been such a different outcome
yeah.
if the case was looked at in nowadays standards.
That's it.
Yeah.
And if he'd stood up and fought too much about it or gone to the police or anything like that, he would be dead. Because you'll see like in the part that I'm about to read now, he cooperated with the police. He wasn't trying to hide it. He didn't offer the information, but when he was caught, he knew he was caught and he told them everything. Yeah. Took them to the bodies and gave them all the information. So shortly after, Miller would be apprehended and it wouldn't take long for him to open up to the police and tell them everything. He even gave the police the locations of the remaining women. Miller shared that all of the victims had been strangled, but he was unsure of how Deborah Lamb had died, although he did believe that she may have been buried alive.
Oh,
that was the one at the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So all the information that we have in everything that I've read that tells you, like, this happened on this date and da-da-da, that's all come from Miller. He's given the police all of that information. So it could all be complete bullshit, but it matches the evidence and it all seems to line up. The only thing they can't really prove is whether he actually
went for those walks or whether he contributed to the actual murders. But I know this is a huge, like, judging a book by its cover moment, but just the way in that photo, he looks like the biggest submissive. I can fully see him going on those walks just to make I'm not saying Chris is I can't say it.
Absolutely.
Moral.
Like, even when, like, with the car, you know, like, Worrell's angry and wants to go back to Adelaide. So, yeah, okay, I'll get in the back seat and you can drive.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't even sit in the passenger seat of his own car.
Yeah.
He sat in the middle, in the back, like a submissive little child.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like that tells you so much in
about
itself.
him as a person,
like,
yeah. But in the end, I guess that saved his life.
Saved his life, exactly. Mm-hmm. All the information we have of the events that lead up to each girl being picked up to the point where they were dropped off have come solely from Miller. On the 12th of March 1980, James William Miller would stand trial charged with 7 counts of murder. He was found guilty on 6 of them, all except Veronica Knight's murder. Unusually, he was found guilty of the murder itself, despite allegedly not actually committing any of the murders. He was sentenced to 6 consecutive life sentences.
That's kind of like, I find that, I don't know, I think because I'm watching The Rookie now and like
I'm watching The Rookie at the moment. I'm obsessed with it.
I watch it like in the background because I feel like it's so chaotic. Right? There's so much just happening every episode. So I'll just scroll on my phone and watch it in the background. But I hear conversations with like DA and like lawyers and stuff, and you need so much evidence to be able to actually pinpoint someone and get them with murder. But that's very surprising to...
Well, it shows the time, I guess, because these days, unless his DNA's on the body, which it's going to be because he's said that he helped dispose of the bodies, you would literally need to find his fingerprints around their throat. Because
pretty much.
He's admitted to being there. He's admitted to helping dispose of the bodies. It was his car. He lived with the person who was committing the crimes, so his hair's going to be there, his skin follicles are going to be there, his DNA is going to be everywhere all over this. That's not enough to say that he actually killed them.
Yeah, just because your stuff's there. Yeah, exactly.
That's what I mean when I say, like, today, it would have been totally different. I think today they could have done him with...
I was going to say not manslaughter. It wouldn't be classified as manslaughter.
I think he would get the tampering with a corpse.
Disposing of evidence.
And, like, there'd be a lot more charges, but they wouldn't be as serious as murder. Because he'd get, like, the, you know, not confessing to it, he'd abetting a criminal. So there'd be 6 cases of that, or 7 cases of that. There'd be, you know, probably would have faced 40-odd charges because of everything he did in the scene of a crime, failing to report a crime. Like, it would have gone crazy, but I don't think it would have been enough to give him 6 consecutive life sentences.
Yeah, he wouldn't have had a lifetime. Yeah.
No. He probably would have got 40 years or something. I mean, when you're already 38 and you've had a fucking rough life, it's still a life sentence, but I don't think he should have been labelled a murderer.
Because they weren't children per se, and because they labelled them women. Because you know what people do to, like, rapists or murderers, especially anything to do with children.
Yeah.
So but you can imagine what...
At the time too, I feel like it wouldn't have been taken as serious because they were girls that got in the car with the boy. So they were bad girls.
True.
So it was very much a time of victim blaming. So Miller was very open in his testimony, telling the horrific stories of the murders, the stories of trolling for victims. He would tell how Christopher never struggled charming women and would easily and regularly pick girls up for casual sex. He openly spoke of how he did all the driving and would take them to secluded places and provide the couple privacy. He confessed that sometimes the girls would deny sex and then they would be raped anyway. He said he never knew if a night would end in consensual sex, rape or murder, as there were no signs in advance. If Christopher got into a black mood in the course of picking up the girls, the night ended in murder. Legally, Miller argued that he never engaged in any murders directly, nor did he explicitly agree prior to going out cruising for women that he would support Worrell in the murders. Nevertheless, he was found guilty of murder because he was found to be part of a joint criminal enterprise. He was present at the crime scenes and associated in disposing of the bodies. This created subsequent legal difficulties difficulties over the definition of a joint criminal enterprise, but these have largely been resolved on the basis that this was a special and particularly horrifying case. So this case led to a lot of laws and stuff changing. Yep. So he steadfastly agreed that he needed to be punished for his part in the crime. He even agreed with his sentence. He had no problem serving 6 life sentences because what he attributed to was absolutely horrific, but he did not want to be known as a murderer. James said, "I am absolutely serving Christopher's time. They can't punish him, so they've chosen to punish me. I agreed I need to be punished, but I'm not a violent man. I'm a petty crook." Miller maintained that they gave me life for knowing about the murders and not reporting them, but they charged me with murder, and that's a load of bullshit. Following the trial, one of the jurors for the case hired a lawyer to petition the Attorney General for a retrial.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
So he didn't agree that he should have been charged with murder. South Australian Chief Justice Len King agreed that Miller should be granted another hearing on the grounds that the justice at his trial, Mr. Justice Matheson, had instructed the jury to find Miller guilty of murder. Yep. Attorney General of South Australia, Chris Sumner, refused to grant the retrial. On the 21st of October 2008, James William Miller died at the age of 68 of liver failure as a complication of having hepatitis C. He also had both lung and prostate cancer at the time of his death.
Oh, Jesus.
Right? So, he was getting his karma. At that point, he was the longest ever serving prisoner in the state. And despite years of pleas, he died a 6 times convicted murderer.
Did it say where he was at? Would have been Port Augusta?
No, he would have been at Yatala.
Still.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's wild to think about that I still live near there.
Yeah, but so much of me is like, someone needs to just have his murder sentence overturned. He's dead. He died almost 20 years ago.
So he's not labelled a murderer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. Just say, I don't know. He
You feel it was an unjust label.
And, he just didn't want to be labelled a murderer. It's I didn't
he was
do
fine
it.
With
I wasn't
doing 6 life sentences. Yeah. He was completely fine with being in there because he helped.
Yeah. Yep.
But not as the murderer.
That's it. And like he said, he's happy to do Chris's time. He's like, Chris can't do it, so I'll do it.
Yeah.
But just don't call me a murderer. And for someone who's so submissive and non-violent and non-aggressive, you can't, that would have been terrible to him. He's probably lived his whole life trying to be a sweet person, being taken advantage of. And I hate it. I look at his photos and I'm just like, that's someone's grandpa. Even though he's not, but you just look at it and you're like, that's the little old man that lives down on the corner by himself.
That's what he looks like,
that comes and does other people's gutters. He's that guy.
Yeah.
It just breaks your heart when you see it. And then I feel stupid feeling bad for someone who helped
do these,
I
guess, very violent. Well, yeah, it is pretty violent.
But he didn't have to tell them where the other bodies were.
Look, he didn't even have to tell Chris's girlfriend.
Yeah, yep. And that tells you how guilty he felt. And he obviously thought that because Chris was dead, he could say it now.
Yeah.
Chris can't be punished. So that
freely speak about it and not get hurt physically or hurt. Yeah.
And almost he didn't realise that what he did was wrong because he's like, well, Chris is dead, so I can talk about it now.
Yeah.
Because they can't punish him. He didn't think about how he could be punished.
Yeah.
I think he was just a docile, dumb, submissive man.
Very submissive looking.
Yeah. And just didn't realise that what he was doing was a crime also.
He definitely got his karma with everything that he was riddled with from top to toe.
Right? The universe was, here you go, you can cop this.
Yeah.
If hepatitis doesn't get you, now you can't breathe and you can't shit, so cop that.
You can die. It's 68 is relatively young still.
Yeah.
It's still mid lifetime.
He ended up serving 28 years in prison before he died. But that's a long time.
I feel like he would have been not content, that might not be the right word, but kind of content there. I feel like he would have been comfortable there.
Yeah, he just accepted it. Yeah. This is my fate. I fucked up. Yeah. This is my punishment.
This is my life, and he would have accepted it easily.
And I hate to think how someone like him would have been treated in prison. Because people would have seen him as an easy target. manipulated him. Like, I tried to find if there was any information on what sort of a prisoner he was, and I couldn't find anything.
Whether he was like a role model.
He probably thrived in prison because he had routine, he had structure.
Yeah.
He knew when he had to get up, what he had to do with each part of his day.
Yeah. He didn't have to try and be civil. I don't know if that's the right explanation.
And I guess he was forced to not be alone because he would have been surrounded by all these people everywhere. Yeah. I don't think he had, well, he openly said he doesn't have an issue with being punished. He just doesn't want to be called a murderer.
Yeah.
And now I want to, like, exonerate him. I want it to be like the movies where I can send a few emails and people just
then it happens.
Okay, we'll just
this
say
random podcast emailed me and they really want this guy to be exonerated. Please make it happen.
They really feel bad for this criminal that didn't realize he was being a criminal. So can we just undo fucking, what was that, 1980? So it's 45 years of history, and we'll just tell everyone that he's not a murderer.
Just erase it.
Yeah, he was just a accomplice.
Accomplice. Yeah. That's the word I was looking for earlier. Yeah. That's something I thought he would have been charged with, like an accomplice. Wow.
But even like
accomplice to murder.
Yeah, the accomplice after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
But they could have gone all those things. They could have charged him with, like, you think every single one, 7 charges of accomplice after the fact, 7 charges of tampering with evidence, 7 charges of moving a corpse, 7 charges of failing to report a crime, 7 charges
for at least 30 plus years.
That's it. 7 charges of disposing of a body, 7 charges of carrying a body in your vehicle, 7
Yeah.
They could have put so many charges on him, and I don't think he would have cared.
I think that was almost punishment in itself, knowing or seeing what kind of person he is on the stand or wherever he was explaining things.
Yeah.
And knowing that would kind of kill him inside to be labelled a murderer.
That's it. That the prison wasn't really a punishment for him. It was the label.
The label, yes.
Yeah.
Because he so freely gave everything and he so freely accepted what they gave him as punishment other than the name.
And if he was smart and had ever watched a crime show, he should have made a deal before giving up where the bodies were.
Please don't label me a murderer.
Yeah, that's it. I'll confess to 7 charges of manslaughter. I'll plead guilty to 7 charges of manslaughter if you fucking don't label me a murderer, and then I'll tell you where the bodies are.
But again, that's, I guess, with the times.
Yeah.
That would have changed so much now.
And you can see now why so many things have changed over the years, because to me, like, if by any chance anyone is listening who is remotely related to any of the victims, I'm not undermining his partner at all, and I'm so fucking sorry that those girls died and died the way they did. There was no need for that. But I forgot what I was going to say.
I know what you're trying to say. You're not trying to undermine what happened and severity of... Not severity, like they're dead. It's a very horrific thing. But I know what you're trying to say.
He was like he was treated as a scapegoat. Like, they were pissed off that they couldn't get Worrell because he was dead. Mm-hmm. So this guy copped it. Mm-hmm. He absolutely needed to be punished. But yeah, I think that's a bit much.
You just don't think he should be labelled a murderer?
No. And I don't think he should have died a murderer. When the guy's laying there and you know he's about to die, just for his own ears.
Said something like that.
Yeah. It's like we're going to change the plea, like we're going to change the charges and just something like. See, that's where I would be horrible being like working with someone like that, because I'd be like, oh, just so you know, it's all over the news at the moment. They changed your charges. They're not calling you a murderer now. Now suck on this pillow. Like, you just
give him some peace and then bye.
That's it. Like, he had a rough life. He doesn't need a shitty death too. Poor bastard.
I get what you're saying. You've got empathy. You're a kind person, and
and that's shit.
You understand. I mean, that's not too bad. You thought that was going to go on a lot longer, so that's not too bad. That was a lot to pack in.
And there was so much that I kept out. Like, there was so many more details, like, for each
the actual murders.
Yeah, like picking up the girls, and there was so much more about, I guess, their kind of love story. Like, everything that I was reading, I guess, was
would
like
paint Miller as more of a victim.
Yeah, because it was the kind of thing where, you know, a lot of the things that I read or watched was like, Miller looks across the courtyard and sees a shirtless Worrell playing basketball.
Oh, really?
And it was like... And
what is this, a smutty novel?
Right? And it was like, he wasn't tattooed and didn't look like a typical criminal. He didn't have tattoos, or he wasn't unkempt. He was well looked after and handsome, and his bronzed body glistened in the sun. Like, it was all like that. And I'm like,
this was
Aw.
legit, like, straight out of Miller's journal.
Yeah, right.
Dear diary.
Dear diary.
He looked in my direction today.
He had sweat on his abs. I want to lick the sweat from his abs.
Keep yourself entertained when you're in jail.
Right. Right. But yeah, it was all everything that I read paints Miller in a victimized
way.
Yeah.
But I guess the whole story has come straight from Miller and only Miller.
Yeah.
There's been no witnesses to anything.
That's
There's been
it.
no, like, the friend or anyone come forward and sort of explain or describe them as people. It's literally just Miller's story.
That's it. And so much of it could be bullshit. Like, how do we know that he really did blow him? Like, that might not have ever been a thing. That might have just been in his fantasies.
Do you know what? He might look like a submissive, and maybe he was the dominant. And then maybe
he manipulated everybody, including me.
Pretty boy Chris ended up going into...
Yeah. Maybe Worrell was like... not Worrell. Miller was like, I saw you looking at that girl. Now you've got to kill her. Who knows?
In a jealous rage.
Yeah. And he could have manipulated all of us. Or Miller could have been the killer the whole time, and I could have been manipulated by someone who died 30 fucking years ago.
Just because it looks like a sweet old man.
Yeah. And he's just sitting there in the ghost realm right now being like, gotcha. You think I'm a sweet old man. Bitch, I did all the killing. And then Worrell's ghost is floating around like, God damn it, I didn't do anything. I'm too pretty to be a murderer.
But this could make a good movie.
Yep.
Not a movie. That's horrible.
No, you could do a series, because then you could get to the point where they both die, and then you could go series 2.
Then like flashbacks to like all the murders.
Yep.
Oh, we've just thought of something.
Season 2 could be them reuniting in the ghost realm, and they're like, you painted me as a murderer. You did murder. No, I didn't. I loved those women. Could be a whole thing. Trademark Booyagor.
We're all just trademarking things. Oh, wow.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
There you go.
That was a good one. I like that one. That's literally, we feel like it sounds like a TV show or a movie, and it happened in our state.
Yep.
So that's unbelievable.
The serial killer dies before he ever faces court.
Lovers separated.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Oh.
It just gives you little bits of everything. And dear James Miller, if you actually did the murders and you made me feel sorry for you, I hope to God you're getting a pineapple up your fucking ass.
I love little Mickey.
I hope they make you wear a maid's dress and you get a pineapple up your butt. I love that you knew what I was talking about.
I watched that so many times.
Oh, shit.
Exactly. Like I said before, I love us. We get each other.
It's so good.
So I understand your empathy for him.
They go from one extreme to the other. I don't want him to be a murderer. Get raped by a pineapple. A complicated creature.
And that is Booyagor.
Yes. Like all the things, hit all the bells, follow us everywhere, and hopefully we'll be back in a fortnight.
We do apologise. Life just gets in the way, and I guess this is a hobby for us at the moment. We're not, on here to get a mass following straight away and be famous from or anything. We're just here, like we always said from the beginning, to chat, ramble,
have a bit of fun,
tell each other stories.
And we get to feel special for an afternoon because we're like, we talking to microphones?
And then we get to listen to ourselves and be like...
And fucking laugh hysterically. I listen to some of our episodes sometimes and I'm like when I was re-listening to the last one where you said Jays of Our Lives, and I was like, that was great. And
I'm like,
you came up with that. I was losing my shit. I was driving home and I'm like, what the fuck? And then I went back, I was listening to some of the other episodes and I was like, oh my God, I did come up with that. What is wrong with me?
It's easy to forget. I think I've forgotten some things we've chatted about. But I think as well because I edit it and I'm playing it over and over and over again.
Yeah, so you take it all in. Like the things, like the pages, hit the bells, do the following and the notifications and the shit.
And then you'll be notified when we do post.
Yeah.
Yes, so we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.